So that finalizes our first session when it comes to our view on CR-related matters. And we open up now for Q&A. So anyone that feels that they would like to ask a question to this team of our management is more than welcome to do that. But just as an icebreaker, I thought I could start. I know, Mats, we start with you then. I know integrity and privacy is a very important matter for you. But of course, this is a very thin line we're walking, because on the one hand, we would like to make use of customer data. On the other hand, we would like to also take the interest of our customers. How do you think we can make use of both in a decent way going forward? What is your take on it? Can we both make additional products based on customer data and also take care of the interest of the customer?
Yeah, I'm convinced that we can do that. However, I think we need to walk very slowly. And we have actually had opportunities to work, to launch campaigns where we would be sort of pushing that boundary with integrity and privacy, and we've decided not to, because we need to learn more. I think we need to have a much more discussion around this, because it's old issues, but it's difficult to really understand how can we make use of this data without making you as a consumer feel that you don't trust us anymore. So I think we need to walk slowly, and we need to be very open and transparent in what we do. Eventually, though, in a couple of years' time, I'm convinced that we will have a different view on this, and we will be more skilled in handling the privacy and integrity issues. But it's really important not to lose that trust with the consumer.
Thank you, Mats. Any questions from the floor? So we have a gentleman. Can we have a microphone, please?
Here.
Thank you. Magnus Furugård, GS. I just want to hear why Tele2 is not part of the industrial initiative concerning integrity and things like that, which was announced months ago. So the question is why we are not part of the industry dialogue. An initiative concerning integrity. Okay. We can do it like this, because I think this is a great question, and we have Marie Baumgartz who can explain it in more detail. Please stand up, Marie, when you answer the question.
Well, thank you, Lars. Hello, Marie Baumgartz, Head of Corporate Responsibility. Thank you, Magnus. Very good question. We mentioned this in our annual report, and in the matter of fact, we were a participant in the industry initiative called the Industry Dialogue. We joined somewhere in February, and then we actually decided to step out of the initiative during late fall. And the reason was that we were looking for a broader organization with all human rights. This had a very specific focus, and we're focusing only on privacy and freedom of expression. So instead, we joined in November. We joined organization GESI, which stands for the Global E-Sustainability Initiative. And they are full service house provider, if I may put it in that way. And it's a large organization with about 30 participants. And they provide best practice in all our material CR fields, including human rights and this topic. So that was the basis for a decision. But good question.
Thank you, Marie. Any more questions from the floor? So we have a gentleman in the back.
Okay, thank you. Peter van Berkom with Nordea. Just a question, Lars, on sales methods. Can you please elaborate on what you're doing there? Because I think many consumers see this as a big concern.
So I would like to repeat that. So it's when it comes to what kind of sales methods we are using to reach out to our customers, that is a matter of concern for many of our customers. I don't know, were you addressing Lars Nilsson or Lars Berg?
Well, I think I can say that it's on the chart of what I showed here. It was maybe not mentioned, but there were 8 areas that have already been measured, and that is one of those. I just highlighted 2, which we find exceptionally important, which were the ones I mentioned. But certainly that is also an area where we have to behave ethically. And to the extent that we do that, I'd like to pose that question maybe to the management of the company. But we would certainly be following that up in our working party.
Yeah, and I think that on that question is that we have moved away from hunting customers, trying to do too much cold calling into individuals. It's when you look at the profitability of such a customer, we might get a new customer possibly, but that is very seldom a profitable customer and very rarely also a happy customer. So we have decided to take take our steps away from being too pushy in that respect. And as a consequence, we have opened up many more stores, many more Tele2 stores. A couple of years ago, we hardly had our own stores. Today, we are now up at 50 stores across Sweden. And I think that's the way to go, to open up and make sure that people come to us instead of we pushing it out instead. If you are already a customer, then it's a different story. Then we possibly can find you a better way of providing service to you. But if you are not the customer, then you need to take the first step and come to us.
So there's a strong economic logic then, Mats, to why we should take into consideration what our customers really need.
Yeah, back to what I said in the beginning, I think it is really critical for us to find the CR link to the business. And I'm convinced that there is such a link, and I think the study that the advisory group in the board is doing, I think that will show exactly that relationship.
Thank you, Lars and Mats. Any more questions from the floor? We have a lady.
Hi, my name is Sarah Nordbrand and I work at the financial department of the Church of Sweden. I would like to know if you have benchmarked yourself within the area of sustainability against other telecom companies, and if so, what that showed, where you are positioned to date. And also a little bit about the ambition going forward.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. I mean, if we benchmark ourselves against other telecom companies and also benchmark ourselves against maybe other industries even, I think we're going to touch upon that when Marie is talking a little bit about how we work with the CR-related topics more day-to-day basis. But if you take, for example, the study that we did internally when it comes to how our own employees responded to topics related to corporate responsibility as well as on how we walk the talk.
Yeah,
I know that you know that, Mats, how that
works. It was a very good question. That's what I was going to say initially. Even though I think that we are working diligently and hard with our values and making sure that everyone within Tele2 understands and live by those values. And when I travel around to countries, I often get questions, well, Mats, this cost consciousness works possibly in everywhere else, but does not work in this country. Is it okay if we take that value out? And it's a very easy response from my side. It's a bit, if you don't believe in cost consciousness, you do not belong in Tele2. I mean, you really need to live and breathe these values. So I think the charts that I showed, the 90%, the 95%, I think that is outstanding. I have never seen such high adherence to the values and the way that we want to work. Because remember, the values, they are the ones that are guiding us when we don't have policies and procedures. Like Laura said, we're not a huge company we're not a company with huge amount of policies. But we have a very strong value system instead, and that keeps us on the narrow path to success.
And if I may build on that, I mean, one of the drivers which Marie was mentioning for us leaving the industry dialogue and instead joining GESI was because that was providing us with the possibility of benchmarking against the ICT sector and find best practice and also collaboration. I think, well, Marie is going to build up on that, I'm sure, when she presents, but not just benchmarking, but also collaborating. We can cover so much more ground by finding peer groups that have the same interest. And that we have found being a very strong driver behind the members of GESI. And that we think we can really make use of going forward as well. So that is one of the drivers, I would say, Maria, for joining GESI, because they also have the toolboxes for benchmarking as well. Mm-hmm. Would you like to add something, Marie, there?
Well, yes, thank you. For this year, we have merged our CR performance into the front end on the annual report, and also some part of the back end. And by doing that, we have tried really hard to report on CR as equal terms on other more traditional financial data and reporting. And by doing that, and by using the global reporting initiatives, the largest framework there is in the world, by using that framework and providing data on a clear and concise way, that's how we will provide opportunities for benchmark and to assess our performance and weigh it against other companies.
Thank you, Marie, and thank you, Mats, as well. Do we have any more questions from the floor? So, gentleman in white shirt.
Hi, Daniel Pasca, Swedbank Robur. I have one question regarding now when you have sold Russia, you have one more. We have one developed market, and the rest of the markets are or one more emerging market, and the rest of the markets are developed. So, will you have any specific focus on Kazakhstan? In relation to the other markets, or will you try to do everything the same for all the markets? Thanks.
Thank you very much. It's around our emerging market, Kazakhstan, if we're going to have an additional focus on that. And I'm very happy to say that we have a case study today, specifically around Kazakhstan, where our Executive Vice President, Niklas Sonkin, is going to go through that in more detail after we have a stand-up leg stretcher. But maybe we could still, Mats, if you would like to still add something there.
No, we have plenty of emerging markets. Kazakhstan is one. Netherlands, I would argue, is another one, but from a more technical perspective. Norway is also emerging for us. So, you can find emerging markets a little bit here and there. But there is no extra focus on Kazakhstan just because we have divested Russia. We've always had a very tight and close eye on Kazakhstan, as we have on all countries. I think Lars mentioned the 4I principle. We have a whole bunch of code of conducts that are in place in order to safeguard against bad things happening. But as I said, Niklas, or as you said, Niklas will go through this in greater detail, because Kazakhstan is an interesting place.
I think definitely all our standards are applicable to all the markets where we're active. So
and Lars?
No exception.
I will more or less add the same thing, because we have exactly the same procedures and we have the same requirements for all our countries and for all our employees. And I think that's I'm using the same language, and that's very, very important, that it's exactly the same.
And that's why we cannot take cost consciousness away in a country. It has to be all 6 values.
Thank you very much. Any more questions from the floor? In that case, I thought maybe just a personal question when I have the chance to ask you one. No, Lars Berg, you have volunteered to join the Corporate Responsibility Advisory Group. Where do you find the drive? Where does it come from?
No, I have, apart from being part of the audit committee, which was the basis for this, but I actually volunteered because I have had a strong interest in these questions basically all my life. I've been in the same kind of functions in earlier companies where I've been working, for example, Ericsson in 25, 30 years ago. And as a young man, I was quite interested in people's behavior, the human nature, and why we are doing things, what is the purpose of life, and what do we think we're doing here in the meantime. And certainly I was very active in those days also in organizations like Amnesty, and more lately in SOS Children's Villages and things like that. But I like this area, and I think this is a very important area, because people are demanding more and more of companies when it comes to this type of behavior. So what I touched upon, my older, slightly cynical view on ethical behavior in companies has gone away. I see the importance, and I'm thinking in that part I'm a convert for the role of companies. I think it has always been the role of individual persons like myself to do what we can, but companies' role is now also on top.
Thank you, Lars. Anyone else that would like to take the opportunity to ask a question to Lars Berg, Mats Granryd, or Lars Nilsson? Okay. I think then I would like us to give a round of applause then to the last group.
Thank you.